communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
I'm prolific, so gifted. I'm the type that's gon' go get it, no kidding. Breaking down a swish in front of your building. Sitting on the steps, feeling no feelings. Last night it was a cold killing. You gotta keep the devil in his hole, but you know how it goes. I'm front line every time it's sold. 100 proof flow, run and shoot pro. 458 drop, playing bulletproof soul. Every few shows, I just buy some new.
So you know we had to let that Nipsey ride for a little bit. Welcome in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here live on KBLA Talk 1580. Thank you for that, Andy. We are celebrating, honoring, remembering Nipsey Hussle on what would have been his 38th birthday today. You know, Lauren London, his partner, put a touching tribute on her Instagram page to him today. And, you know, that's just a little bit of his magic. Nipsey was only in the scene for a short time when you think about it. Mostly mixtapes. There was only real one album release, right? There was famously the album that he dropped that was $1,000, and he only had 100 of them. Jay-Z bought a few of those. We know what he did as far as business and what he established. So, you know, shout out to him. We miss his influence, what he started as far as financial literacy conversations amongst his age group and those that are into hip hop. We appreciate that. His conversations surrounding health. You know, whether you agree with the specifics or not, those conversations are important to have, and he started them from a thoughtful perspective. So, giving it up to him, that's a great way to bring us in. Welcome to RSVP with Jill Munroe here live on KBLA Talk 1580. I hope that you are ready for, of course, as we are every night, a whole lot of interesting conversation. We are the show that brings you all the trending topics and headlines across entertainment, sports, culture, and lifestyle. And tonight, as always, we have a packed show. So many things to discuss. There's a lot going on out there. And it's only Tuesday. I mean, stop for a minute. Today's August 15th. We're about 2 weeks away from Labor Day weekend. Summer is coming to an end. A lot of the kiddies started back to school this week, depending upon where you're located. I mean, did you have a hot girl summer? Did you have a suburban girl summer? Those can be lit too, you know, lots of wine and cocktails and light bites and quiet evenings. Did you do that? Just wondering because it went by really quickly. Anyway, let me run down what we're going to get into tonight on the show. We're going to talk a little bit about Sage Steele from ESPN. She was suing the network. She's recently announced a settlement and her future as far as her career. So we're going to get into that. We mentioned the late, great Nipsey Hussle and his birthday. So shout out to him again. We're going to talk a little bit about some behind the music industry insights. Of course, we just celebrated 50 years of hip hop. We've been highlighting different aspects of hip hop all throughout the show over the course of the last few weeks. So we're not going to stop now just because the official date has passed. We're going to share a little bit of something that LL Cool J shared on the Breakfast Club recently about a potential collaboration that he had and why he had to decide to pass on it. We'll get into that. We're going to talk about something Michael Bivins shared about Bobby Brown being kicked out of New Edition. You know, Michael Bivins recently dropped his own documentary series because outside of New Edition and BBD, he was an established music executive, and there's a lot with Biv that he had to share. So he was in an interview. He shared something about Bobby. We'll get into that. We, of course, are going to talk about Usher's new single and who's starring in the video. Got to get into that. We're going to talk about the return to office movement, why some bosses are not happy with the push to return to the office. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about a university settlement that has to deal with price fixing and financial aid. We'll talk about that. That'll be in the second hour. We're also going to get into who paid for Melba Moore's Hollywood star. That's an interesting story. We're going to talk the top hip-hop movies that you need to see. You need to see. There's many, but that you need to see. And we're going to get into, of course, more trending topics and headlines, all of that and more. But let's get us started with, of course, a couple of conversation starters. We love those. So there is a new series that is coming to E! It's called House of Villains. It's a reality show. It's going to gather 10 reality TV villains under one roof to compete for $200,000 and the prize of America's ultimate super villain. So are you ready for the cast? Okay. So it's Anifsa from 90 Day Fiancé. I'm unfamiliar. You got to let me know if that's something that you've checked out. Johnny Bananas from The Challenge. That's MTV. I know that. Haven't seen that one, though. Shake from Love is Blind. Johnny Fairplay from Survivor. Are these hitting for you yet? Maybe this one will. Bobby Lights from Love and Hip Hop Miami. Connie Olympos from The Bachelor. Omarosa from The Apprentice. And Tiffany New York Pollard from Flavor of Love. Also, Jax Taylor from Vanderpump Rules and Tanisha Thomas from Bad Girls Club. Listen, I am vaguely interested just to see what New York and Tanisha are going to be giving on the show. But ultimately, I'm not really interested. Are you? Is this something that you're looking out for, the ultimate TV villain? Well, it's coming to E! It debuts in a couple of weeks. Joel McHale is going to be the host, and there will be different battle challenges each week to test their physical, mental, and emotional strength. The winner of the challenge, of course, will be safe from elimination, and at the end of the week, a villain will be sent home every week. So it's coming. Make sure that you are locked in. We'll have to see if it keeps our interest, you know. When we come forward, we'll have more trending topics and headlines. We'll get into Sage Steele and what's going on with her. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about Keke Palmer. We'll talk about an NFL player that has a stalker from a one-night stand and what he's doing about it. All that and more. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Need help with the job hunt? It can be challenging, but don't worry. LA County has your back. With a variety of available support services, you'll get the help you need while finding a job. We're here to help you succeed. Let's get started. Find out if you qualify at recovery.lacounty.gov/programs. That's recovery.lacounty.gov/programs. LA County and you moving forward together.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions on limitations apply. Cards are issued by JP Morgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked in with Jill Munroe here on RSVP with Jill Munroe at KBLA Talk 1580. Now, before we get into all of these trending topics and headlines, I want to make sure that you have a way to connect with us. So if you haven't already, download the app. That way you can take us with you. Catch the shows later. Leave a message if you know you're not quite ready to call in, which I'm going to ask you to, of course. And the dial-in number, in case you want to weigh in on any of the topics we're discussing tonight, 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. Make sure you are following on all of our socials, KBLA 1580. I am, of course, at Stiletto Jill. Hit us up, follow along, tap in. Now, let's get into what's going on with Sage Steele. So, Sage Steele has been at ESPN for 16 years. In 2021, she was suspended from on air for a few weeks because of her controversial stance on political and social issues. She went on a podcast, Jay Cutler's podcast, former NFL player, and she spoke about vaccine mandates, female sports reporters, former President Barack Obama's identity, and her comments caused a lot of commotion and confusion. Basically, she said that she felt vaccine mandates were sick. She said that women sports reporters, some, not all, potentially invited unwarranted sexual comments or leering because of how they dressed. And she also took issue with people referring to former President Barack Obama as black when he is biracial. And she didn't understand why there was more emphasis on that than the other. Sage Steele is also biracial. Now, Sage was suspended. She sued ESPN, saying that they violated her First Amendment rights. She was on her downtime when she appeared on this podcast. She was appearing as a private citizen and not as a member of ESPN. Well, that case was settled, apparently, and her words that she put out on Twitter, well, the app formerly known as Twitter, which she put out on X. I'm never really going to call it X, but, just to be technically correct. At any rate, she said that after successfully settling my case with ESPN Disney, I have decided to leave so that I can exercise my First Amendment rights more freely. I am grateful for so many wonderful experiences over the past 16 years and excited for my next chapter. I mean, realistically, though, having sued the network, even though she stayed there throughout, probably was extremely uncomfortable for both sides. And how do you kind of move on after that, no matter what the settlement is? Not saying that it's impossible, but it does make it difficult. And I think considering what ESPN has been doing as far as their talent, it makes sense that they would opt to move away from the relationship and start fresh. ESPN is making a lot of changes on air. We've covered their layoffs that they've been going through. They've recently announced their weekend NBA broadcast team, and some people are pretty shocked that there will be no NBA players featured in the broadcast. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, if you think it's needed, if you think you want a player's perspective, if it's not that big of a deal. But it should be interesting to check out as the changing face of sports media continues. So, Twitter is not always a warm and fuzzy place. Many were not sad to see Sage hitting the door. So, there were jokes, there were moments brought up from her past that were sort of, I guess, awkward moments where maybe it was kind of clear she wasn't connected to the culture. So we'll be curious to see where Sage pops up next. I mean, some were saying she could end up at Fox, maybe Fox News. We'll have to see. But the question is, will you miss her? At any rate, moving on, I mentioned that there's an NFL player probably wants to call Zion for a little bit of advice because he too is having a problem with a woman. This one isn't older per se, but he says she's stalking him. Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase, he is one of the more active, popular players, young players in the NFL right now. He is seeking a restraining order against a woman he claims that is harassing him and his mother. He went to court and filed a temporary restraining order against a woman named Amber Hunter. He claims that he had a one-night stand with her and that Amber became, and I quote, unhinged and disturbing and has unleashed a pattern of harassment aimed at he and his mother, claiming she started threatening them after he refused to continue their relationship after a single night of romance. So that's what Jamar is saying. He's saying one time and she's gone crazy. This has been going on since July of 2021. It is now August 2023, in case you were curious about the time period. About 2 years. Jamar says that July is when they hooked up, and since then she's been trying to damage his brand, his reputation, his corporate sponsorships through calculated and ongoing harassment. I mean, we didn't think Mariah Mills wrote the playbook, right? But anyway, he says that Amber mainly harasses him on social media where she posts false statements about him. He says that Amber claims that he is a deadbeat dad in order to sick her 18,000 followers on Jamar. He says that they don't have a child together. He claims that she posts photos of another person's child to make it seem like they have a kid, and that she has refused to subject said child to a DNA test. Beyond that, he also says that Amber is not only lying about paternity, but that she is a victim of domestic violence, that he has physically attacked her. Again, most of this has been done via social media. He claims that no law enforcement agency has found her claims to be credible. And so she's just ranting about him on social media. Most recently in July, she went as far as to post his mother's personal cell number on Instagram, which led to his mom getting a bunch of harassing calls and texts. So he said it's an ongoing harassment scheme to paint him negatively and impact his career. And he is attempting to get a temporary restraining order. So he's waiting on the judge's judgment. But I say, listen, you guys got to think about it. Protect your assets. Is a one-night stand worth it? There's social media. There's so many ways to get information to see maybe what type of person it is. I really do not understand, even if you're young, still getting caught up in those type of situations for young men. So hopefully he, doesn't suffer too much more loss if these allegations are true, and that he can get that taken care of swiftly. And for anybody else, whether you are an athlete or a regular guy, think about your with the situations that you're stepping into. One night stands when you don't know someone, there's all types of reasons why that may not be a great move. And if it is your jam, think it through and make sure that everybody's on the same page about what the situation is. So that's it on that one. Good luck, Jamar. So speaking of one-night stands, now I'm really being funny because there's no one-night stand aspect to this, but there is something pretty shady going on, perhaps, maybe. So Usher announced today that he has a new single coming out, and it's called Boyfriend, and he dropped a little tease of the videos from it. And guess who it's starring? Keke Palmer. So we know that Keke came back with the pettiness after her boyfriend got really upset that she attended the Usher concert and was wearing a see-through dress and was really getting into the moment, being excited about being a fan and seeing Usher perform. Well, somebody's petty. I don't know if it's Keke. I don't know if it's Usher. I don't know if this was pre-planned and this is all an elaborate roll out to get our attention. Not that they necessarily needed it, but the stunts and shows are writing here because the visuals will be dropping tomorrow, Wednesday, August 16th, and we'll see what kind of role Keke plays in the video. Now, the turnaround on this suggests that it was probably already a single Usher has in the works, unless it was pre-planned. But again, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying they work fast. I would have to think, though, that it would be Usher's team that came to Keke about it if it is a song that they had in the cut, that they were ready to be released, and it just happened to fit on theme. I'm curious to see what the song and the visuals look like. I'm curious to see where this saga goes, what we see next from it. We know that Keke dropped her merch, I'm a Mother, and other options. We're not sure what the relationship status is currently. I wonder if Darius's Instagram and Twitter are still active, because he's going to get hit up tomorrow if they are. If they are active right now, I bet as soon as that teaser was dropped, they were deleted, or at least put on pause temporarily. So, of course, we're going to keep up with that and see what happens with the ongoing saga of Usher, the ladies' man. And I believe Usher's still in a relationship with his youngest kid's mom, right? I'm not sure. I know that I remember him proposing. I'm not sure if they got married yet. But I feel like all of this is for nothing because Usher is chilling. Although I was looking on social media, and again, I will say it, some of you on Twitter and Instagram really, really missed your calling. You really should have gotten to detective work. Maybe the CIA, FBI, something. You are wasting your time with these pop culture bits. However, I appreciate you because someone said that one of the things that has been consistently familiar with Usher is that he kind of seems to move on from his relationships before he's really officially out of his relationships, and it's kind of public. We'll just slowly but surely won't see the person anymore that he was once coupled with. So I couldn't remember if that was exactly true. I remember a couple of occasions where that might have been the case, but we don't know for sure. But I do think that is an interesting point once again. But whatever, everybody's marketing geniuses at this point, so Usher will use it to his advantage, and so will Kiki. We'll have to see what we see them popping up on next. Now, I told you a little bit about LL Cool J, and he was recently on The Breakfast Club, right? And so as far as musically, I think it's maybe 2005-ish the last time LL dropped some music. Remember the song Headsprung, but really most people at this point know him as the guy from, what is it? It's not CSI. What is the show? His CBS show where he plays the detective. The name will come to me. Or was it CSI Los Angeles? But his character is moving to the Hawaii one. I don't know, something like that. But we don't think of LL very much as a hip-hop artist anymore. Although this summer, I guess for the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, we know he went on tour with his Rock the Bells brand based off of his obviously iconic song from the 80s. And he has the website, which is dedicated to hip-hop culture, and he toured under that banner. Well, in a recent interview, he discussed that a few years back, he did a collaboration album. And the artist that he did it with was 50 Cent. So can you, first of all, picture an LL and 50 Cent album, what that sounds like? You know, like we have Future and Drake, 21 Savage and Drake. I don't know why I'm using everybody and Drake, but just, you know, those are some collaborations. So 50 and LL put together an album. And so LL said that the album, though dope, it just didn't sound like him. It didn't feel like him. And he didn't feel comfortable releasing it, putting it out there. So, you know, it lives on in obscurity, something that we'll never see. But what I want to know is, are you really interested in new music from LL Cool J? Though a legend and certainly capable of performing, is he like Jay-Z? Because obviously LL is in a different phase of his life. He's closer to 60 than he is to, 40. So does he rap about his life as an actor? Does he say, I'm waiting to take on any of you youngsters? I think if he really wanted to, and obviously he doesn't because he would, I think that it would behoove him to link up with a younger artist, just, pop up on their single just to reintroduce himself. Still being LL, I'm not saying he necessarily has to take on a younger person's aesthetic as far as the rhymes or whatever, but, it'd be curious to see LL on a new track with a youngster. Anyway, we'll have to see if that eventually develops. When we come forward, we'll have news about Michael Bivins, what he had to say about Bobby Brown back in the New Edition days, something he thinks that was unfair. We're going to get into the return to the office movement, how it's going wrong for a lot of offices and executive management. We're going to talk a little bit about a university settlement and a price-fixing lawsuit. All of that and more when we come forward. News and sports is up next. You are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
These trick questions, money making nip, straighten out my jewelry on my dresser. Well known, flick up in jail clothes, snatch a champagne bottle from Rico's till T-shows. Whatever, playing chess, not checkers. 38 special for you clever. See, bro, you ain't living down by the street code. Been through all these motions up and down like a seesaw. I can never view you as my equal. Fuck, I wanna hear your CD folk.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 2 black defendants are among the 19 people facing charges with former President Donald Trump in an alleged attempt to overturn the results in the 2020 election. One is named Travian Kuti, who is a black Chicago-based publicist who used to work for black entertainer Kanye West. The other is Harrison Ford, the leader of a group called Black Voices for Trump. News outlets report Cootie and Floyd are charged with violating Georgia's RICO laws that prohibit racketeering, among other charges. Newsweek reports Floyd tried to influence the testimony of Ruby Freeman, a Fulton County election worker, before the Georgia grand jury investigation. Forbes magazine reports Cootie worked with Floyd to contact Freeman as well. Black Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis said she'll seek a trial date within 6 months. And that's the latest. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Look sharp, shop smart, and take care of your eyes. Visit America's Best for a professional comprehensive eye exam, plus 2 pairs of glasses starting at just $79.95. Shop online or book an exam at americasbest.com. That's americasbest.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 is inviting you to join us on Saturday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for our very first economic empowerment event for the community. This event is free and is powered by Caltrans. We're doing this in association with Rambo House, and here's Rambo to tell you more.
Contracts. I'm going to say it again for all of us small business owners out there. Contracts. Rambo House, KBLA, Tavis, me. Oh my God, this is going to be massive. I truly thank Caltrans for giving us the opportunity to focus on contracts. Listen, that's what it's all about to be a small business in LA. That's how we hire our own. That's how we expand our community, is contracts. KBLA1580.com is for you to have a seat at our contracts-focused event. Contract Ready does it again. We had over 900 last time. So you guys know how exciting this is. And if you just think that you want to get into contracts and you're close to it, bring your friends out for September 16th at the Marriott Hotel. Listen, you know where to register. KBLA1580.com. Come see me. I can't wait to see you. Let's do it, Tavis.
So be sure to go to KBLA1580.com for all the details. We'll see you Saturday, September 16th.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Carson, get back!
Hey, I am Jasmine Carson, LSU Women's Basketball National Champion. I had to up my game, and this time I upped my intimate grooming routine too. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area. Featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and a skincare regimen that is dermatologist tested, Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about the full regimen of products.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm still in love with you.
Bringing us back with a little love from New Edition. Gotta let those harmonies ride, right? You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Thank you, VIPs, for locking in on this Tuesday night. So, of course, you know Andy is on point. Brought us back with New Edition because we're going to talk a little Michael Bivins. As I mentioned a few weeks back, Michael has a new documentary that is coming to all black. It's coming out August 24th. Michael just had a birthday on the 10th, so happy birthday to him. And it is going to be the story and the details of Biv. You know, he had dreams of going to the NBA. I mean, Michael Bivins is a little short, but he had dreams of it. He was the point guard. New Edition back in the day played in a lot of celebrity basketball games. They actually really kind of kicked that sort of thing off in the community. They would go around to different cities and hoods and have these games. And of course, all the girls would come and all of that. And we see the whole through line of what that has become today, because every year there's a celebrity basketball game or softball tournament or kickball game, and you know. But anyway, so this docuseries is about Michael Bivins' life specifically, about how he was a popular high school, well, he was younger than high school when he joined New Edition baller, got asked to join New Edition. You know, he says he did what he had to do to get through everything. He also talks about, you know, his life outside of New Edition, his business projects. We know he is responsible for bringing the world Boys to Men, ABC, BBD, the East Coast family. Anyway, and that aspect of it as far as his continued work outside of New Edition. But Michael was discussing his docuseries and decided to share some thoughts about when Bobby Brown got kicked out the group. He said at the time he didn't really understand what was going on. He didn't know that he really had a voice, but he felt that Bobby was too young to be placed out of the group under the circumstances and everything that was going on. He felt like they should have given him another opportunity, and that, you know, the group didn't actually have a vote. And even the way that the vote is talked about, he said the stories behind that vote and the vote never should have happened. He was on the Mr. Expert Opinion show, and he said it's not even worth the conversation. Bobby was way too young to be voted out of New Edition. So, you know, I mean, who knows what would have happened had he stayed, though. Maybe the offshoots wouldn't have happened. Maybe they wouldn't have gone on to be, in my opinion, the most successful, the most influential group of the past 50 years, R&B. I say that because every member of the group in every iteration had multi-platinum success. Not many groups can say that and make that claim. They have broken up, had different versions of the group. I mean, we know like the Temptations did it and stuff like that, but not like this, and still come back together with the original six. We know they just got off of a tour in April with them, Guy, Keith Sweat, and them Guy Key Sweat. I'm missing some. Tank and Jay Valentine. So shout out to them. Still going. Almost 50 years in the game. So Biv just turned 55 years old. Shout out to him. And hey, you can't redo time, but we all know that things worked out for the best, right? Right. So I also saw this little fun conversation bumping around on social media. And of course, I wanted to bring it here. It is actually our topic for the good question of the night. I mean, in all honesty, I say my answer is the right answer, and it's really the only answer. But I thought it might be fun to ponder and see if you guys had an opinion of it. So I saw on social media, someone said that they realize now that Marge Simpson is a white passing Creole woman. They said it explains so much about her depiction on The Simpsons. This was by Just Henry on Twitter. And that her sisters as well. He said, I mean, her full name is Marjorie Jacqueline Bouvier. Well, here's one thing. The Jacqueline Bouvier part, I guess maybe this person doesn't realize that is actually former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy's maiden name, the one that was married to John F. Kennedy. So that's where that is. So I don't know if they meant it Creole in that sense. Also, well, let me read you a couple of the other comments before I tell you my thing. So Fatty the Street says she sleeps with a bonnet on, and there's Lisa that plays the sax and her activism, Bart's delinquency, his undiagnosed learning disabilities, and being automatically seen as a bad kid because he's acting out. Another person said, yeah, and they took him to get the flat top shaped up. So I thought that was pretty funny. We are creative. We will find anything. But to me, The Simpsons, obviously, or Marge, cannot be a black woman because there are black characters on the show and their skin is what? Black. So I don't know, but I thought it was interesting that people are looking at that. Someone goes so far as to claim that Homer said in season 34, episode 14, because we know The Simpsons is the longest running TV show in history, definitely the longest running animated show. Do you think it's time for The Simpsons to go off the air? I mean, it's been like almost 30 years at this point, maybe more. Anyway, that Carl Carlson writes again that Homer claimed he was black. I didn't do my research on that. I'm not going to look that up. I don't think the Simpsons are black. I definitely don't think Marge Simpson is black. And I do not think that was their intent. But I did think that it was a little funny. So, weigh in. Let me know what you think. If you have an opinion, we always like to hear from you. So, before I get into this next story about a little, situation that is happening between more pop culture stuff, between Kim Kardashian and some fans. I want to talk a little bit about giving flowers and paying homage. So Melba Moore recently talked about her star celebration in Hollywood. She was presented with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She is a singer, popular in the late 70s, early 80s. And there was one person, because it does cost to get a star placed on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You need a certain amount of signatures, but there is a physical cost to it. I believe it's around $10,000. Not sure if that is still the cost or if it has gone up since then. However, there's a cost attached to it. One single person was responsible for paying for Miss Moore's star. Someone that didn't even know her. We're going to get into the story behind that. We're also going to talk a little bit about Michael Oher's adoptive family's claims of what he tried to do to them and why they feel that his lawsuit is really, sour grapes. And we're going to talk about the former Ye publicist who is in trouble along with Trump and a few others down there in Georgia. All that and more. You're checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As black folk, we know how to face tragedy and not fall into despair. And yet sometimes the points of pain are felt so acutely, especially when we know full well that we're being treated unfairly by our so-called justice system that at times appears to be anything but just. After more than 30 years of public service, Mark Willie Thomas is set to be sentenced on Monday, August 21st for his conviction on bribery and conspiracy in a federal corruption trial. As you well know, Willie Thomas was found not guilty on 12 of the 19 counts the feds brought against him. This is not your typical corruption case. No lavish trips, no victim, no cash in a brown bag or stashed away in a freezer, no illegal contributions from a wealthy donor, no money received by the accused, no use of taxpayer dollars. There is therefore no need to incarcerate Ridley Thomas to protect the community. Indeed, the probation department has recommended a mere 18-month sentence. But the feds, they want MRT to serve 6 years. 6 years. How is that fair? This happens far too often to defendants who just happen to look a lot like you and me. First, they target you. Then they overcharge you. Then they fight to keep certain folk off the jury. Then they spend millions of your tax dollars prosecuting a victimless $100,000 criminal allegation. Then, typically, they win, and why shouldn't they? In reality, no case of the United States government against you is really a fair trial, if you feel me. Then, after they win, they ask for a sentence of more than 3 times what the probation department is recommending. Again, I ask, how is that fair? I read the federal government's summary document regarding the sentencing of MRT, and the charged language they use is both revealing and despicable. You can clearly see their disdain for the constituent community, for the black clergy who have stood with MRT, and mostly for MRT, daring to exercise his constitutional right to even go to trial to defend himself. The feds demanding a 6-year sentence in this case is their way of punishing an uppity Negro who dared to fight back. Let's hope that the judge in this case sees through this racist masquerade and delivers a sentence of time commensurate with the crime, even as MRT appeals this verdict. There are no good times to be black in America, and sometimes are worse than others. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley. We welcome your comments.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So I mentioned Melba Moore. She was a star back in the 80s. Not sure if you remember her music. She's 77 years old now. Some of her hits were Love's Coming At You, Falling, This Is It, and Mind Up Tonight. So I guess she was first introduced into the industry. Let's see. Think again, early 70s. She was married to Clifton Davis. He was a TV star. Used to be on the show That's My Mama. Was also the lead on Amen. Played Sherman Hensley's son. Anyway, Melba Moore, very popular, and she recently was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She was joined at her ceremony by Jimmy Jam, Sheryl Lee Ralph, Lunel, Frida Payne, also another 70s singer, and Cat Williams. So she said as she looked back over her life in New York, Harlem, and New Jersey, she's proud. Receiving a Hollywood star made her reflect on all the goodness of God it took to get her here. She said she's a late bloomer, and she's still trying to find the words to share. So she's won a Tony-winning actress, so that means that, she also was on Broadway in addition to releasing some R&B albums, and actress as well. She revealed that Cat Williams is the one who paid for the bill to receive the star. And I had the price wrong. It is actually $75,000 that it costs to get that installed. And as she mentioned, she and Williams were not friends prior to this. She said, a public thank you to him. He is the sole sponsor of my star. I'm still in shock. She said, Kat, you have a friend in me for life. Love, Melba, forevermore. So I thought that was really sweet and touching. Kat simply said he admired her. He felt that there were things in her performance that he appreciated, and so he wanted to do that for her just as a person. So that's amazing. That shows you the goodness of people is still out there in the world. Okay, so we mentioned that a former publicist of Kanye West, as well as Robert Kelly, it was caught up in the Trump indictments that came down. Sorry, I blanked on the word. Indictments that came down the other day. So this is a black woman. We heard about her as far as in the election that she allegedly intimidated a electoral worker, a Democratic worker, down in Georgia. And so she was also one of the 19 people who were indicted with these RICO allegations. And they're alleging that she traveled from Chicago to Atlanta in an attempt to pressure an election worker to report election fraud. She was also charged with, well, that's just RICO. The indictment claims she communicated via phone calls and text messages with other individuals involved with the case and later traveled to Atlanta after being recruited by the director of Black Voices for Trump. So I say that all to say this. We hope that all 19 of those people are, found, convicted, and jailed. But we know more than likely that she will be. And really quickly, I want to shout out Fannie Willis. That is the Georgia prosecutor that is handling all of this. She has been doing her thing. And this is just a reminder that Inglewood doesn't stop. Fannie is from Inglewood, California. She wound up in Georgia by way of D.C. She got her undergraduate degree from Howard University in 1992, graduated Emory Law School in 1996. Her name is Swahili, and it means prosperous. And her father was a lawyer and a Black Panther. We know that part of what she ran on to get her position in Georgia was to clean up. She ran against her former boss, basically, and there were allegations of misconduct, financial mismanagement, and sexual harassment. So her whole thing was that she was going to clean up all of this. It should also be pointed out that Fannie was raised by a single father, and her heart has always been with fathers. And in her family practice, she tended to represent men that were going through battles for custody. So I just thought those were some interesting facts about her. Salute to that Black woman who is from right here down the street from where our studios are for KBLA Talk 1580 in Lamert Park. We pray her for safe coverage throughout this process, and we hope to see a win for her. So there is that. Now, of course, we have more trending topics and headlines because there has been so much happening already, and we're only at Tuesday. Can you believe it? So I want to ask you, were you one of the people that got to work at home during the pandemic? Are you still kind of living a hybrid life as far as your job? Or are you back in the office? Were you forced to go back in the office? Or was it your choice? Do you prefer it? Because realistically, I know there's a lot of people, obviously, we know all the comforts that can come from working at home, but there are also some of the stresses where you may not feel like you have a separation of home and work. Maybe there's not enough space for that for you. Maybe, well, the kids are going back to school now. So I know during the pandemic, it was obviously really hard for some people having to work and homeschool their kids or take care of their kids. So they didn't get that break in that, manner and fashion. But at any rate, after 3 years, all the plans to getting workers back in their desk, all the worries about real estate and so forth, per a survey, 80% of the bosses regret their initial return to office decisions. And they say that they would have approached their plans for a return to the office much differently if they had a better understanding of the employees' office attendance, how they use the office amenities, etc. So in other words, if they had just talked to their staff, they might have had a better understanding of how they could have effectively utilized both working from home and coming in a hybrid. So the state goes on to say this was a new research study conducted by Envoy. So many of the companies are realizing that they have been a lot more measured in their approach rather than making big, bold demands and controversial decisions based on what the executives are thinking rather than talking to the actual employees that are making up the workforce. So Envoy interviewed more than 1,000 U.S. company executives and workplace managers who work in person at least one day a week. And from that, they said some leaders have been lamenting the challenges of measuring the success of in-office policies, while others said that it's been hard for them to make long-term real estate investments without knowing how employees might feel about being in the office for weeks or even months from now. So I think that we've talked about this a lot, that there is a labor revolution happening in the United States on all fronts. We can look at the SAG after strikes and the Writers Guild strikes, to the hotel workers that have been striking, the UPS workers that were about to strike when a deal was made. And I think in all aspects, on every level, employment, the way that we think about work, the time frame with which it consumes is going to change moving forward. And so it will be interesting to see how this all plays out. They spoke with an advisor to corporate executives, and she said that she is surprised that the percentage of employers having regrets about their return to office plans isn't much, much higher. She said many organizations that attempted to force a return to the office have had to retract or change their plans just because of employee pushback. And now they said that they don't look strong, and it changes the employees' opinions of them. I don't know about that. If you wanted to stay home and your employer was like, no, you can't, and then they relented, what's the problem? You're still getting your check. You're getting what you want. So I don't know if you feel that way, but the plans are changing, and what is apparent is what we think of work, what a work day looks like, how we go about defining ourselves through work is going to look very different over the next couple of years. So just curious to see what your thoughts are on that and how you plan on making any changes, or if any at all, you know? When we come forward, we will have more trending topics and news, more headlines. We're going to talk a little bit about the elevated suicide rate in the United States and what we think is happening with that. We're going to get into this lawsuit, which is been sort of dubbed a price-fixing cartel that involves several universities. We're also going to get into birthday dinners, a conversation around birthday dinners and the Real Housewives of Atlanta. All that and more. You were checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports is up next.
No matter what your friends do, they're just jealous of me and you. And I'll always keep you happy, 'cause I'm still in love with you. I'm still in love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 2 Black defendants are among the 19 people facing